Welcome back, everybody. Today we are diving deep into the world of human health and disease.
Ooh, exciting.
And, our listeners have sent in some really fascinating sources.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
got textbook chapters all about how our bodies work, how they fight off illnesses. And then we've got some biographical info on M.S. Swaminathan,
Swaminathan.
a really important figure in the Green Revolution.
Right.
So it's a really cool mix that lets us explore this connection between, the biology of our bodies and our overall well-being.
I like it.
So let's jump in.
Let's jump in.
It's interesting how the very definition of health has evolved.
It really has. It used to be, you think about health and it's just like, am I sick?
Right.
Am I not sick?
Right. Are you sick or not?
But it's so much more than that now.
Yeah. And the source material even mentions this. The World Health Organization now defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being.
Wow, they really cover all the bases there, don't they?
Yeah, it's like a much more holistic view.
It is holistic.
And I'm curious, what do you think about that definition?
I think it highlights how interconnected our well-being is.
Okay.
It's not just like, oh, I dodged the flu this year, or I don't have a cold.
Right.
It's about, do you have access to nutritious food? Do you have clean water? What's your community like?
Okay.
All of these things really do play a role.
That's such a good point. And it makes me think about, we have those source materials about the Green Revolution, right?
Yes.
M.S. Swaminathan's work. And it wasn't just about let's make more food.
Right.
It was about improving nutrition and access for people.
Absolutely. And I think that ties directly back to this broader definition of health that we're talking about.
Okay.
Swaminathan, he really understood that food security is absolutely crucial for, not just individual well-being, but the well-being of entire communities.
Right.
And if we think about it, better nutrition, that means stronger immune systems.
Mm-hmm.
It fuels child development and ultimately, it helps communities thrive.
It's amazing how something like increasing the amount of food that's grown can have such a huge impact.
A ripple effect, yeah.
Yeah.
But even with access to all the great food in the world, our bodies, they still have to defend themselves.
Of course.
Against those little microscopic invaders that can cause disease.
Right.
And, the source material really dives into, the world of these things called pathogens, which is just a fancy word for things like bacteria, viruses, and parasites.
Okay.
And it talks about how our bodies fight back against these things.
And thank goodness our bodies fight back.
Oh, absolutely.
We're not just sitting ducks for these things.
No. We've got this incredible system built right in.
I love this.
Yeah.
And the source material calls it immunity.
Immunity, yeah.
Yeah.
And there are two types. There's this thing called innate immunity, which we're born with.
Okay.
That's our body's first line of defense. Think of it like the wall guarding a castle.
So what kind of defenses are we talking about? What's part of that wall?
So we have our skin, for one.
Oh, right. Of course.
A physical barrier, keeping those pathogens from getting in.
Okay.
But then we also have things like stomach acid. You know how acidic your stomach is.
Yes.
Tears, saliva,
Yeah.
all creating a very hostile environment for those little invaders.
It's amazing to think about how our bodies just do these things without us even having to think about it.
It's pretty cool.
But then what about the immunity that we develop over time?
Ah, yes. So that's called acquired immunity.
Acquired immunity.
And this one, it's a little more complex.
Okay.
It involves these specialized cells called lymphocytes,
Okay.
or white blood cells, as you may have heard them called.
Yes, I have heard them.
And they learn to recognize and target very specific threats.
Oh, wow.
It's like they go to school for this.
Right.
And the source material explains how these B cells, which are one type of lymphocyte,
Okay.
they release these things called antibodies.
Antibodies.
Antibodies, which are like, guided missiles that target specific invaders.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
Very cool. And what about T cells? I've heard of those. What do?
T cells, they're like the strategists of the immune system.
Okay.
They kind of coordinate the whole immune response.
Oh, wow.
They help those B cells do their job effectively,
Okay.
but they also have a really key role in recognizing the difference between our own cells and those foreign invaders.
That's got to be important.
Very important. And that's actually crucial for things like, organ transplantation.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
Because your body might reject it.
exactly. Yeah.
So how do doctors manage that then?
It's a very delicate balance.
Yeah.
Because our immune system is incredibly good at recognizing self versus non-self,
That's good.
which is a good thing, right?
Right.
But it means that for transplants, we need very careful tissue matching.
Okay.
And we also use these drugs called immunosuppressants. And these medications, essentially, they dial down that immune response so it's less likely to attack that new transplanted organ.
But then doesn't that mean that those patients are more vulnerable to getting sick?
That's the trade-off, yes.
No.
But it's still an amazing advancement in medicine, right?
Absolutely.
But getting back to those fascinating examples of how our bodies fight off disease,
Yes.
the source material talks about Typhoid Mary. Have you heard of her?
I have heard that name.
And she is a fantastic example, or her cases, I should say,
Okay.
of a really crucial public health principle.
Okay.
And that is that people can spread disease even if they don't look sick.
Oh, wow.
They don't have any symptoms.
Oh, that's tricky.
Yeah. And this really demonstrates why things like contact tracing are important.
Okay.
Food safety regulations,
Right.
super important to keep everybody safe.
It's like that example really highlights how interconnected we all are, right?
Yeah.
And how our individual health choices can really affect other people.
It's a community effort.
Speaking of examples, the source material also mentions malaria.
Ah, malaria
Right.
and how it spreads, right?
Yes. And malaria is a great illustration of how, if we understand a pathogen's life cycle,
Right.
that can really help us come up with really good strategies to fight it.
Okay.
What makes malaria so tricky is that it needs two hosts to survive.
Oh, really?
It needs humans, yes, but it also needs mosquitoes.
Okay.
So we have to target both of them to break that cycle.
That sounds complicated.
It's a challenge. But speaking of battles,
Okay.
the source material also talks about how sometimes our immune system, it can overreact.
Oh.
It can even attack our own cells.
Ooh, really?
Yes.
Like with allergies.
Like allergies, exactly.
I think a lot of our listeners probably have allergies. I know I certainly do.
Very common, very common. And it's a great example of the immune system kind of going a little haywire.
Right.
It's basically overreacting to something that's otherwise harmless,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
Pollen or dust mites. Right. And I sneeze like crazy every spring because of pollen.
Yeah, exactly. But then sometimes it's not just an overreaction to something foreign, but it's the immune system attacking the body's own cells, which is what happens in autoimmune diseases.
Right. So that's what's happening with things like, I think the source material mentioned rheumatoid arthritis.
Rheumatoid arthritis, exactly,
Mhm.
where the immune system attacks the joints.
Wow.
And again, it all circles back to that self versus non-self recognition.
Right. So it's like the immune system is confused.
Yeah.
Wow. It's incredible how complex our immune systems are.
The human body is a fascinating machine.
It really is. And we've talked a lot about, how our bodies fight off disease. But as we mentioned earlier, health, it's way more than just biology.
Oh, for sure.
It's also about having the resources to thrive, right?
Yes.
And this is where we kind of circle back to Emma Swaminathan and the Green Revolution.
Yes, exactly. Swaminathan's work is really a fantastic example of how scientific advancements can really have a profound impact on human health.
Right.
He dedicated his whole life to improving agricultural practices,
Yeah.
developing these high-yielding varieties of crops, especially rice and wheat.
So he's working on making more food.
More food, better food.
Okay.
Yeah. And that, of course, had a huge impact on food security, especially in India.
Right, yeah.
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 His work, along with, others like Norman Borlaug,
Right.
led to what we now call the Green Revolution,
Right.
which really, significantly increased food production.
Wow.
And it actually helped avert famines in many parts of the world.
That's incredible. But I'm curious, how does increasing the amount of food actually translate into better health?
That's a great question. It's all about access to nutritious food.
Okay.
The Green Revolution, by boosting agricultural productivity,
Right.
it really played a significant role in combating hunger and malnutrition. And when people have enough nutritious food,
Right.
their bodies are stronger, their immune systems work better, and they're just less susceptible to disease.
So it's not just, having a full belly.
No,
It's about having the right kinds of food to support your overall well-being.
exactly. Remember that World Health Organization definition of health?
Yes.
Complete physical, mental, and social well-being.
Yes.
Adequate nutrition, it's the foundation for all of that.
Right.
It's like building a house.
Okay.
You need a strong foundation, right?
Yes.
If you don't have that, everything else is unstable.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. And it highlights how interconnected everything is.
Right. We've been talking about food, nutrition, but what about medical advancements?
Oh, yeah.
The source material mentions breakthroughs in fighting infectious disease.
Oh, huge breakthroughs. I mean, one of the biggest has been the development of vaccines.
Vaccines.
And
that's been around for a while.
It has been around for a while, but it's still one of the most effective tools we have.
Right.
I mean, vaccines have played a crucial role in eradicating smallpox, for example.
Wow.
And they've significantly reduced the number of cases of diseases like polio, measles, tetanus.
It's amazing to think how many lives have been saved because of vaccines.
It really is remarkable, but, the source material also talks about, we can't rest on our laurels, so to speak.
Right, yeah.
There are still challenges.
Yeah.
Things like antibiotic resistance.
Right.
And, new infectious diseases are emerging all the time.
Yeah, the source material mentioned that.
Yeah. And, things like the COVID-19 pandemic.
Right.
That was a pretty stark reminder.
Yeah.
Of how important it is to continue doing research and to be vigilant.
So it's kind of like an arms race, right?
It is.
You're constantly trying to stay ahead of these things.
One step ahead, yeah.
And it's not just about developing new drugs and vaccines.
Right. No, it's not. The source material also highlights how important public health measures are.
Okay, like what?
Things like clean water,
right,
sanitation, good hygiene practices.
Right.
All of these things are critical for preventing disease transmission.
So it all goes back to that, ecosystem idea.
Exactly.
That our health is really affected by so many things, way beyond just our individual choices.
Bigger than all of us, yeah.
And that kind of brings us back to M.S. Swaminathan again, right?
It does, yeah.
Because he wasn't just focused on increasing those crop yields.
No.
He was also concerned about environmental sustainability and equitable access to resources.
Absolutely. He understood that human health is inextricably linked to the health of our planet.
He sounds like a true visionary.
He was, ahead of his time in many ways. But let's switch gears for a moment.
Okay.
Let's talk about individual choices that can impact our health.
Okay.
Particularly, let's talk about things like drug and alcohol abuse.
That's a tough one. It's a sensitive topic, but it's important.
Very important, yeah. And the source material mentions this rising concern of substance abuse,
yes,
especially among young people.
Right.
And it's a complex issue, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It's got biological components,
right,
psychological components, social components.
Right.
It's a lot. And the source material explains how addiction works, emphasizing that over time, people develop tolerance.
Right.
And they can experience really difficult withdrawal symptoms.
It's scary how these substances can kind of hijack your brain.
They really can, yeah. The reward system, it gets all messed up.
Yeah. And it's interesting, the source material mentioned this, that addiction often starts because people are seeking some kind of benefit.
Right, like a perceived benefit.
Like they think it'll make them feel good or it'll relieve stress.
Exactly. That initial positive experience,
right,
that can really mask the long-term harm that these substances can cause.
Like a trap.
It is a trap, yeah.
What do you think about, the pressures that might lead young people to even experiment with drugs or alcohol in the first place?
Oh, it's multifactorial, for sure. There's peer pressure.
Of course, yeah.
There's stress, the desire to fit in.
Right.
And sometimes a lack of healthy coping mechanisms.
Right.
They don't know how to deal with these difficult emotions, so they turn to substances.
Right. The source material also mentioned the misuse of performance-enhancing drugs in sports.
Oh, yes, that's a big one. And that really highlights how the pressure to succeed, to be the best, can lead people to make harmful choices.
It's a good reminder that, we need to create environments that really support healthy choices.
Absolutely.
And provide resources for people who are struggling.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not just about individual choices either.
Right.
It's about addressing the systemic factors that contribute to substance abuse.
Right. Okay.
Things like poverty, inequality, lack of access to health care.
It's about creating a society that really prioritizes well-being.
That's a great way to put it. And it reminds us that health is not just a personal responsibility.
Right.
It's a shared one.
Yeah, we all have a role to play in this.
We do. We need to create communities that support health and well-being for everyone.
So we've explored a lot of different aspects of health today.
We have, haven't we?
From that microscopic world of our immune system to the global impact of something like the Green Revolution.
Right.
And then these challenges of things like substance abuse.
Yeah. Human health is pretty complex.
It's incredibly complex.
Multifaceted.
Yeah.
And it's constantly evolving.
Right.
And there are so many exciting advancements happening in the field of health and wellness.
So many new technologies and approaches emerging all the time. That makes me think, what does the future hold for human health?
Ooh, that's a great question.
What are some of these trends and breakthroughs we should be paying attention to?
That's a perfect segue.
Okay.
Because in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to be exploring those emerging trends and breakthroughs.
I'm excited to hear about it.
It's going to be good. Stay tuned.
All right.
So, we were talking about Swaminathan's work.
Yeah, last part we were.
Really a great example of how scientific advancements can really make a difference for human health.
Right. It's not just about, the cells in our body.
Exactly.
It's also about these bigger things.
The bigger picture.
Yeah.
So, he dedicated his whole life to improving agricultural practices.
Right.
Developing these high-yielding crop varieties.
Like rice and wheat we were talking about.
Especially, rice and wheat. And, of course, that had a huge impact on food security.
Of course.
Especially in India.
Right. Yeah.
His work, along with other folks like Norman Borlaug, led to what we call the Green Revolution.
Right. And that, really, significantly increased food production.
Yeah, it really did.
Crazy amounts.
Oh, yeah. And it helped avert famines in a lot of parts of the world.
It's incredible to think about. But I'm still, I'm curious.
Okay.
How does increasing just the sheer amount of food,
right.
How does that translate to people being healthier?
So it really comes down to access.
Okay.
Access to nutritious food.
Okay.
The Green Revolution, it really played a significant role in, combating hunger and malnutrition.
Right.
Because by boosting that agricultural productivity, you suddenly have more food available.
Okay.
More people can get the food they need.
Okay.
And then when people have enough nutritious food, their bodies are stronger.
Makes sense.
Right. Their immune systems work better.
Okay.
And they are less likely to get sick.
So it's not just having enough calories.
No, it's quality too.
It's the quality of the food, right?
Absolutely.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it really ties back to that World Health Organization definition of health.
The whole holistic thing.
Physical, mental, and social well-being.
Yeah.
Adequate nutrition is the foundation for all of that.
Right.
It's like, if you're building a house, you need a good, strong foundation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the whole thing is unstable.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy. So we've talked about food. We've talked about nutrition. What about, straight up medical advancement?
Oh, yeah. There's been some incredible progress.
What's exciting you right now?
One of the biggest breakthroughs, and it's not new, but it's, still so impactful.
Okay.
Vaccines. Vaccines have played a crucial role.
Right.
In eradicating smallpox.
Wow.
That's huge.
Eradicate, it's gone. Gone because of vaccines.
Yep. And significantly reducing diseases like polio, measles, tetanus.
It's incredible.
So many lives.
It really is. But, the source material also mentioned some of the challenges.
Yeah, we're not out of the woods yet. Things like antibiotic resistance.
Right.
That's a growing problem.
Yeah. The source material said that.
And new infectious diseases, they're emerging all the time.
Right. That's scary.
It is a bit scary. And, COVID-19.
Oh, right.
That was a pretty stark reminder.
It was.
That we can't get complacent.
Right.
We have to keep doing research, keep being vigilant.
Yeah. So it's kind of like an arms race then.
What? Yeah.
We're constantly trying to stay one step ahead.
One step ahead. Always. And it's not just about developing new drugs and vaccines.
Right. What else is there?
Public health measures are so important.
Oh.
Things like clean water.
Right.
Sanitation.
Right.
Good hygiene. All of these things.
Makes sense.
Help prevent disease transmission.
So it really is that ecosystem, right?
It is. Yeah. It's bigger than just our individual choices.
Right. And that brings us back to M.S. Swaminathan.
It does.
He wasn't just focused on increasing those crop yields.
No.
He was also concerned about environmental sustainability.
Absolutely.
And equitable access to resources.
He really understood.
Yeah.
That human health is connected.
Right.
To the health of our planet.
Yeah. He seems like a really forward-thinking guy.
He was ahead of his time. But let's switch gears for a minute.
Okay.
Let's talk about some of those individual choices that impact our health.
Okay.
And, particularly things like drug and alcohol abuse.
Yeah, that's a sensitive topic.
It is.
But it's important to talk about.
It is important. And the source material mentions this rising concern of substance abuse, especially among young people.
That's really sad.
It is. It's a complex issue.
Oh, yeah.
There's the biological components,
Right.
the psychological components, the social components.
It's a lot.
It is. And the source material talks about how addiction works.
Okay.
Emphasizing that people develop tolerance
Right. Yeah.
over time.
Right.
And they can have really difficult withdrawal symptoms.
I mean, it's kind of scary how these substances can really hijack your brain.
It is a bit scary. Yeah, how it messes up that reward system.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the source material said that addiction often starts because people are looking for something good.
They're seeking some kind of benefit.
Yeah, like they think it'll make them feel good or relieve stress.
Exactly. That initial positive experience can really mask the long-term harm.
Right, right. So it's kind of like a trap.
Yeah, you get lured in by that initial feeling. So what do you think about the pressures that lead young people to experiment in the first place?
Well, I mean, I think there's peer pressure.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Everyone's doing it.
Trying to fit in.
Yeah, trying to fit in, stress,
Yeah,
not having healthy ways to cope with life.
exactly. A lack of healthy coping mechanisms.
Maybe they don't know how to deal with big emotions. So they turn to these substances. And the source material also mentions the misuse of performance-enhancing drugs,
Oh, yeah.
especially in sports.
Yeah, that's a big one. And it really shows how the pressure to succeed, to be the best.
To be at the top.
Yeah, it can lead to harmful choices.
Yeah, it's kind of a reminder that we need to create like supportive environments, right?
We do.
Where people feel like they can make healthy choices
Absolutely.
and that there are resources for them if they're struggling.
For sure. And it's not just about those individual choices, right?
What else is it about?
It's about addressing some of those bigger systemic factors
Right.
that contribute to substance abuse.
Okay, like what?
Things like poverty,
Okay.
inequality,
Right.
lack of access to health care.
Right. All those bigger societal issues.
It really is about creating a society that prioritizes well-being
For everyone.
for everyone, yeah. And it's a good reminder that health, it's not just a personal responsibility.
Right.
It's a shared responsibility.
Yeah. We all have a role to play in this.
We do. We need to create communities that really support health and well-being for everybody.
I like that. So today we've explored a lot of different aspects of health.
We have, from the tiny, tiny world
Right.
of our immune systems
Yeah, those cells.
to the global impact of things like the Green Revolution,
Yeah, yeah.
and then those tough challenges like substance abuse.
Yeah, it seems like human health is incredibly complex.
It is incredibly complex.
Multifaceted.
And you know what? It's always evolving.
Right. Always changing.
And there's so many exciting advancements happening.
Yeah, and the field of health.
Health and wellness. Oh,
New technologies, new approaches all the time.
It's really a fascinating time.
Which makes me think, what does the future hold for human health?
Ooh, good question.
What are some of the things we should be looking out for?
Well, that's a perfect segue.
Okay, good.
Because in the last part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
we'll be exploring those emerging trends and breakthroughs.
Ooh, I love that.
It's going to be a good one.
All right, well, stay tuned, everyone. We're back.
Back for more.
Final part of our deep dive.
I can't believe it.
I know, it's gone so fast. Human health and disease.
Fascinating stuff.
It is. We've covered so much.
I know.
From those tiny little pathogens, those bacteria and viruses,
Right.
to the huge global impact of innovations,
Big picture stuff.
like the Green Revolution.
Right.
But now, I kind of want to look ahead.
Ooh, a crystal ball time.
What's next?
Yeah.
What does the future hold for human health? What's on the horizon? What are you excited about?
The source material hints at a really exciting shift
Okay.
in healthcare.
Okay, like what?
So, it's moving beyond just reacting to illness
Okay.
when you get sick
Right.
towards something more proactive
Okay.
and preventative.
I like that. Yeah. Being ahead of it.
Yeah.
So what would that look like, in real life? What are we talking about?
So think personalized medicine.
Early detection
Okay.
and a real focus on lifestyle changes.
Okay. So not just like taking a pill.
Right. Exactly. It's much more holistic.
Okay. And are we actually seeing this happen?
We are. We're seeing these incredible advances in genomics.
Right. Like our DNA.
Yeah. Data analysis.
Right.
Even wearable technology.
Right. Like my watch.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
All these things help us understand what your individual risk factors are
Okay.
so we can tailor your health care in a really precise way.
So it's not just one size fits all anymore.
No, it's much more tailored to you
Okay.
as an individual.
So imagine like you go to the doctor.
Yeah.
And they have all your information. They know your genes. They know what you've been eating.
Right, your lifestyle habits.
Yeah. And they can say, hey, you're at risk for this, but if you change these things.
Exactly. Early intervention. Prevention is key.
Yeah, that's got to be better than just waiting till you get sick. Oh, absolutely. It's a game changer. And it's not just predicting risks either.
Okay, what else?
We're also seeing technology revolutionize how we diagnose and treat diseases.
Okay.
I mean, you've got telemedicine now.
Right, like talking to your doctor online.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence can help make diagnoses.
Oh, wow.
And robotic surgery
Okay.
is enabling these really complex procedures with incredible precision.
So like less invasive surgery.
Exactly. Yeah. Smaller incisions, faster recovery times.
It's amazing.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
It is, yeah, how quickly things are changing.
But with all this progress,
Yeah.
we have to think about the ethical side of things too.
Oh, right, of course.
Yeah.
What kind of ethical issues are we talking about?
So as we get more into personalized medicine, we're using tons of data.
Okay.
So we need to be really careful about privacy.
Of course, yeah. Like, who have access to that data?
Exactly. And then we also need to make sure that these advances are available to everybody.
Right, not just people who can afford it.
Exactly. Equity is really crucial.
So important, yeah.
We can't have this technology just exacerbate the disparities that already exist.
Right. We don't want to create even bigger gaps in healthcare.
Exactly. But it's not all about high-tech solutions either.
Okay.
The source material also talks about, recognizing those simple lifestyle factors that have a huge impact on health.
So back to the basics.
A little bit, yeah.
So like diet, exercise, sleep.
All that good stuff. Stress management.
Okay. So those things are becoming even more important, even with all the technology.
They are. There's so much research now showing how those lifestyle choices impact our risk of developing chronic diseases.
Okay.
Things like heart disease, diabetes, cancer.
So it's like we have more control over our health than we think.
You do. You have the power to make choices that support your well-being.
That's a good message.
And it goes back to that idea of immunity.
Okay, yeah.
Research is showing that lifestyle choices directly impact how well your immune system works.
Okay.
So things like chronic stress, that can weaken your immunity.
Okay.
But things like regular exercise, a balanced diet, those strengthen it.
So it's like we're back to, like, taking care of our body.
Yeah, giving your body the resources it needs to thrive.
I like that.
Yeah.
And as we kind of wrap up this deep dive,
yeah,
what's like the biggest takeaway? What do you really want listeners to remember?
It's a message of hope
and
empowerment.
I like
We've come so far in understanding human health.
Yeah.
And with all this focus on science, on prevention, on making sure everyone has access to care.
Yeah.
The future is pretty bright.
I love that. Knowledge is power. Right?
Absolutely.
And the more we understand about our bodies, the factors that influence our health, we can make good choices.
For ourselves. And for future generations.
So thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.
It was a good one.
Into the world of human health and disease. Stay curious, everyone, and keep exploring.